The red sky of Nexus Prime burned with the smoke of destroyed ships. Twisted metal scattered across the battlefield like broken bones. The air tasted of fire and death. In the center of a deep crater lay something that should not have been there. Kethvar felt his life bleeding away into the alien soil. The proud warrior of the Vorthak Empire pressed one of his 4 hands against the largest wound in his chest. Green blood seeped through his fingers. His bio-armor hung in shattered pieces around his massive frame. Each breath brought sharp pain that cut through his body like ice. The warrior tried to remember how long he had been lying here. Time moved strangely when death approached. The battle felt like yesterday and forever ago at the same time. His fleet had retreated without him. The Vorthak way was clear. The wounded stayed behind. The strong survived to fight another day. He had served the Empire for 40 cycles. He had won honors in 17 campaigns. None of that mattered now. The machines called harvesters had torn through their formation like paper. His ship had crashed. His squad had died. He alone remained broken in this crater. Kethvar closed his eyes and tried to die with honor. The warrior code demanded courage even in the final moments. He would not cry out. He would not beg. He would face the eternal darkness as a true son of Vorthak. Above the crater rim, a shadow appeared. Kethvar opened his eyes, expecting to see a harvester scout. Instead, he saw something smaller, much smaller. It wore strange armor colored like the desert sand. It moved carefully down the crater slope with a weapon ready. The creature was tiny compared to a Vorthak warrior. It stood on only 2 legs and had just 2 arms. Its face was hidden behind a transparent shield. This was no harvester machine. This was something else, something alive. Do-hyun Kim moved down into the crater with his rifle raised. The human soldier had been searching for salvage when he spotted the crater. His squad needed supplies, and crashed ships often held useful things. He had not expected to find a living creature. The alien was huge, maybe 3 meters tall even, lying down. 4 arms spread out from a massive torso. The skin looked like it was made of green crystal scales. Dark blood pooled beneath the creature. Do-hyun had seen enough wounded soldiers to know this one was dying. The alien's eyes followed Do-hyun as he approached. They were large and yellow like twin suns. Intelligence burned in those eyes. This was not some wild animal. This was a soldier, like himself. Do-hyun stopped 3 meters away and slowly lowered his weapon. The alien made no move to attack. It simply watched him with those burning yellow eyes. The human soldier could see the rise and fall of the massive chest growing weaker with each breath. Kethvar studied the small creature that had found him. It wore the gear of a warrior, but looked so fragile. How could something so small survive on a battlefield? Yet it moved with the careful steps of an experienced fighter. It had lowered its weapon. This surprised the Vorthak warrior. Do-hyun pulled out his water bottle and took a small sip. The alien's eyes tracked the movement. The human could see terrible thirst in that alien face. Without thinking too hard about regulations, Do-hyun stepped forward and held out the water. The alien stared at the offered bottle. One of its 4. Hands moved slowly upward. Green fingers longer than Do-hyun's entire hand wrapped gently around the water container. The alien drank carefully. Water spilled down its scaled chin and mixed with the blood. The small act broke something inside Kethvar. No Vorthak would waste water on a dying stranger. Resources went to the living, the strong. Yet this tiny creature offered its most precious supply to an enemy. What kind of species did this? Do-hyun activated his medical scanner and ran it over the alien's wounds. 3 major punctures in the chest. Massive blood loss, internal damage. The readings were not good, but they were not hopeless. This creature could live if treated quickly. The human soldier opened his medical kit and pulled out emergency foam sealant. He looked into those yellow eyes and spoke slowly. His words meant nothing to the alien, but his tone carried meaning. Calm, steady, professional. Do-hyun pointed to the wounds, then to his medical supplies. The alien warrior nodded slowly. Permission given. The human soldier went to work. Kethavar felt strange foam enter his wounds and expand. The bleeding slowed, then stopped. The small creature worked with skilled hands. It knew how to treat battle injuries. The pain began to fade as the foam carried numbing agents into his system. The human soldier pulled out a nutrition bar and broke it in half. He ate one piece, then offered the other to the alien. Again, the Vorthak warrior felt confusion. This creature shared its food with a stranger, with an enemy. What strange honor code did these beings follow? Do-hyun watched the alien eat the nutrition bar. The massive jaw worked slowly. The creature seemed to be thinking hard about something. Finally, it spoke. The words were harsh and guttural, but the tone was clear. Gratitude. The human soldier nodded and began packing his medical kit. The alien was stable for now, but it needed real medical treatment soon. Do-hyun looked around the crater. Staying here was dangerous. Harvester patrols moved through this area constantly. They needed to find shelter. Kethavar tried to sit up. The movement sent fire through his chest, but the foam held his wounds closed. The small creature moved to help him. Two tiny hands pushed against his massive shoulder, providing what support they could. The alien warrior looked down at his unlikely savior. This creature had risked its own safety to help him. It had shared precious water and food. It was now trying to help him move. These actions made no sense by Vorthak standards. Yet they felt right in a way the warrior could not explain. Do-hyun looked into those yellow eyes and spoke a single word clearly. His name, the universal introduction of soldiers. The alien repeated the sounds badly but with obvious effort. Then, it spoke its own name in return. Kethavar, Do-hyun. Two warriors from different worlds bound together by an act of unexpected mercy on a battlefield far from home. Do-hyun checked his watch. 3 hours had passed since he found the alien warrior. The sun was getting lower, and the temperature would drop soon. They could not stay in this open crater much longer. Harvester scouts flew overhead every 30 minutes like clockwork. Kethavar sat against the crater wall, breathing more easily. The human's medical foam had worked better than expected. The Vorthak warrior felt strength returning to his limbs. He watched the small creature pack supplies with efficient movements. Everything had a purpose. Nothing was wasted. The human soldier pulled out a small metal box and pressed buttons on its surface. Strange sounds came from the device. Do-hyun spoke into it using the same calm tone he had used with Kethavar. The alien could not understand the words, but recognized military communication when he heard it. Jae-min Park heard his friend's voice crackle through the radio static. He was 2 kilometers away searching another crash site for useful parts. Do-hyun's message was short but clear. He needed help. He had found something important, something that could not wait. The young private left his salvage work and moved quickly across the broken landscape. Do-hyun rarely asked for help. If he called it, meant the situation was serious. Jae-min checked his rifle and moved faster. Do-hyun closed the radio and looked at Kethavar. The alien warrior was studying him with those bright yellow eyes. There was intelligence there. Curiosity. The human soldier pointed to himself and said his name again, slowly. Then he pointed to the alien and repeated the name he had heard earlier. Kethavar nodded and spoke his name more clearly. Then he pointed to his chest where warrior marks were carved into his armor. The symbols meant nothing to Do-hyun, but the gesture was universal. A soldier showing his rank and unit. Do-hyun pulled out a small photo from his chest pocket. It showed him with other human soldiers all smiling at the camera. He pointed to each face and said names. Then he pointed to himself again. The message was simple. These are my people, my unit, my family. The Vorthak warrior felt something strange in his chest. Not pain this time, but a different feeling. Warmth, maybe. This human creature showed trust by sharing personal things. Among the Vorthak, such openness was weakness, yet from this small being, it felt like strength. Kethavar reached into his own damaged armor and pulled out a small crystal disc. Images moved inside it like trapped light. Vorthak warriors in formation, battle scenes, victory celebrations. He showed it to Do-hyun, then pointed to himself in the images. Do-hyun leaned closer to look at the crystal. The alien technology was amazing, but the meaning was clear. These were Kethavar's memories, his unit, his brothers in arms. The human soldier nodded with understanding and handed back the precious item. A sound from above made both warriors freeze. Heavy footsteps on rock. Do-hyun raised his rifle and moved to shield the wounded alien. Kethavar tried to stand, but his legs were still weak. The human soldier motioned for him to stay down. Jamin appeared at the crater rim with his weapon. Ready. He looked down and saw his friend standing protectively over something huge and alien. The private's eyes went wide with shock. His rifle pointed at the massive creature automatically. Do-hyun kept his voice calm and steady. He spoke quickly in Korean, explaining what had happened, how he found the dying warrior, how the alien had not attacked, how it needed help to survive. Jamin listened, but kept his weapon aimed. Kethavar watched the exchange between the two humans. The newcomer was afraid and angry. His weapon stayed pointed at the Vorthak warrior. This was normal behavior. This made sense. What did not make sense was how the first human stepped between them. Do-hyun finished talking and waited. Jamin was young, but he was a good soldier. He would make the right choice. The private looked at the alien, then at his friend. Finally, he lowered his rifle. Jamin moved down into the crater, keeping distance from the alien. He looked at the medical supplies and the shared food. His friend had risked everything to help this creature. If Do-hyun trusted it, then maybe he could too. The three warriors sat in awkward silence. Kethavar watched both humans carefully. First one radiated calm confidence. The second was nervous but trying to copy his friend's behavior. Both carried weapons, but neither pointed them at him anymore. Do-hyun showed Jamin the scanner readings. The alien was hurt but stable. They could move him if they were careful. The private nodded and began pulling rope from his pack. They would need to carry the massive creature. Kethavar understood what they planned. He shook his head and pointed to his legs. With great effort, he pushed himself up the crater wall. Standing was painful, but possible. He would not be carried like dead weight. He was still a warrior. Do-hyun smiled for the first time that day. The alien had pride. That was something he could understand and respect. He offered his shoulder as support. Kethavar hesitated, then accepted the help. Jamin took position on the other side. The alien warrior was 3 times their size, but together they could help him walk. The strange group began moving slowly out of the crater. Above them, the sky darkened with approaching night. In the distance, strange lights moved between the wrecked ships. Harvester patrols were getting closer. They needed shelter soon. Do-hyun led them toward an old mining facility he had seen earlier. The buildings were damaged, but still standing. They could hide there until morning, maybe longer if they were lucky. Kethavar moved step by step between his 2 small helpers. The pain was manageable now. More than that, he felt something he had never experienced before. 2 warriors from another species were risking their lives to save him, not for gain, not for glory, simply because it was right. The Vorthak Empire taught that mercy was weakness, that the strong survived by abandoning the weak. Yet these tiny humans showed strength through their mercy. They gained power by protecting others instead of destroying them. As they walked through the alien night, Kethavar began to understand that everything he had been taught about honor might be wrong. True. Strength might not come from standing alone. It might come from standing together. The mining facility looked like a metal skeleton against the dark sky. Broken windows stared out like empty eyes. Do-hyun led his small group through a gap in the outer wall. Inside, the air smelled of old machines and rust. Jaemin swept the area with his rifle while Do-hyun helped Kethavar sit against a concrete pillar. The alien warrior was breathing hard from the walk. His wounds had reopened slightly, but the medical foam still held. The human soldiers set up a small camp in the corner furthest from any windows. They shared their remaining food with Kethavar and took turns keeping watch. The alien warrior tried to understand their system of taking shifts. No Vorthak would trust another to guard while they slept. Do-hyun showed Kethavar how human soldiers worked together. One watched while others rested. Everyone took equal turns. Everyone trusted their lives to their brothers. The alien warrior found this concept both fascinating and disturbing. Near midnight, the first attack came without warning. Metal grinding against metal echoed through the facility. Harvester scouts had found them. Red scanning beams swept through the broken windows like searching fingers. Jaemin woke Do-hyun with a touch. Both humans grabbed their weapons and moved to defensive positions. Kethavar struggled to his feet despite the pain. A warrior did not fight sitting down. The first harvester machine smashed through the main entrance. It looked like a metal spider the size of a ground vehicle. Multiple. Arms ended in cutting tools and weapons. Its central eye glowed with cold blue light. Do-hyun opened fire with precise shots at the machine's joints. Jaemin aimed for the sensors. Their bullets sparked against the metal hide but barely scratched the surface. The harvester turned toward them with mechanical precision. Kethavar watched the humans fight with growing amazement. They moved together like dancers. Each one covered the other's weaknesses. They retreated when staying would mean death. They advanced when they saw opportunity. The Vorthak way was different. Warriors fought alone to prove individual strength. Retreat was cowardice. Victory came through personal power. Yet these humans were winning through cooperation. A second harvester broke through the side wall. Now the humans faced two enemies with limited ammunition. Do-hyun called out coordinates to his friend. They focused fire on one machine while moving, to avoid the other. Kethavar could not watch anymore. These small creatures had saved his life. Now they fought to protect him even though he could barely stand. Honor demanded action. The alien warrior pushed away from his pillar and charged the nearest harvester. His forearms moved in a pattern older than human civilization. Upper hands grabbed the machine's weapon arms. Lower hands found the central processing unit. The harvester's metal shell cracked under Kethavar's grip. Sparks flew as the alien warrior tore circuits from their housings. The machine thrashed wildly, but could not break free from the four-armed hold. Do-hyun stared in shock at the display of raw power. The alien was still wounded but fighting like a force of nature. This was what a Vorthak warrior could do when healthy. This was why they ruled an empire. The first harvester fell silent as Kethavar ripped out its central brain, but the effort cost him. Green blood flowed fresh from reopened wounds. He swayed on his feet as the second machine turned toward him. Jaemin emptied his clip into the second harvester's eye sensor. The machine stumbled blind but kept moving. Its cutting arms swept the air searching for targets. One blade missed Kethavar by centimeters. Do-hyun saw his chance. While the machine focused on the alien, he ran forward and jumped onto its back. His knife found the power coupling that fed the weapon arms. Sparks showered around him as the systems failed. The harvester spun trying to dislodge the human. Do-hyun held on and kept cutting deeper into the machine systems. Finally, the movement stopped. The second attacker collapsed in a heap of dead metal. Silence filled the facility. Three warriors from two different worlds stood among the wreckage breathing hard. They had won their first battle together. Kethvar looked at the two humans with new understanding. They had trusted him to fight beside them. They had counted on his strength while offering their own skills. Together they were more powerful than apart. Do-hyun checked the alien warriors' wounds. Fighting had made them worse, but not dangerously so. The human soldier applied fresh medical foam while Jae-min gathered salvage from the destroyed machines. Young Private found something interesting in the harvester remains. Data crystals that might contain useful information. Do-hyun examined them with his scanner but could not read the alien technology. Kethvar took the crystals in one massive hand. His people had fought harvesters for many cycles. He knew their systems. The data showed movement patterns and target priorities, intelligence that could save many lives. Do-hyun activated his radio and called for pickup. His voice was calm but urgent. They had valuable information that needed to reach command immediately. More than that, they had proven something important. Different species could fight together. Human tactics combined with alien strength created new possibilities. The small human soldiers and the massive Vorthak warrior had found a way to trust each other completely. As they waited for rescue, Kethvar taught the humans about harvester weaknesses. The machines always followed certain patterns. They could be predicted and defeated if you understood their programming. Do-hyun shared human knowledge about teamwork and tactics, how soldiers covered each other's blind spots, how retreat could lead to better attacks later, how thinking together was better than fighting alone. By dawn, all three warriors understood they had started something bigger than themselves. Their partnership might be the key to defeating an enemy that threatened both their peoples. 3 human transport vehicles arrived at the mining facility as the sun climbed higher. Sergeant Boram Choi jumped out of the lead truck with her rifle ready. She had expected to find 2 of her soldiers with salvaged equipment. She had not. Expected to find them sitting peacefully with a giant alien warrior. Do-hyun stood and saluted as his sergeant approached. Behind her came 6 more soldiers, all pointing weapons at Kethvar. The alien warrior remained seated with his hands visible. He understood military situations even across species barriers. Boram looked between her soldiers and the alien. Both Do-hyun and Jae-min seemed relaxed around the massive creature. They showed no signs of being prisoners or under threat. This made the situation more confusing, not less. Do-hyun explained quickly what had happened, how he found the dying warrior, how they fought together against the harvesters, how the alien had intelligence that could help win the war. Boram listened with growing amazement. The sergeant examined the destroyed harvester machines. The damage. Patterns told a clear story. Human weapons had disabled sensors and mobility. Alien strength had torn apart the central systems. Teamwork had won the battle. Kethvar offered the data crystals to Boram. Through gestures and broken words, he explained what the information contained: harvester movement patterns, attack priorities, weaknesses in their programming code. Captain Min-ho Yang arrived an hour later with a full intelligence team. He was a careful man who did not like surprises. Finding his soldiers working with an alien warrior was definitely a surprise. The captain set up a field analysis station to examine the harvester data. Human computers could not read the alien format, but Kethvar helped translate the most important parts. What they discovered changed everything. The harvesters were not just attacking random targets. They were following a specific plan designed to eliminate both human and Vorthak forces. The machines had studied both species and created countermeasures for their fighting styles. Worse yet, the data showed harvester production facilities building new war machines. These new units combined human technology with Vorthak weapon systems. They were designed to be unstoppable against either species, fighting alone. Min-ho realized the implications immediately. The harvesters had been playing humans and Vorthak against each other. While both species fought separate wars, the machines grew stronger by stealing technology from both sides. Kethvar provided more disturbing information through careful translation. The Harvesters had infiltrated both the human fleet and Vorthak Empire. They had access to military communications and battle plans. The next major offensive would be a trap. Lieutenant Hyejin Lim was the unit's best communications specialist. Minho ordered her to establish contact with the Vorthak fleet. They needed to warn both sides before the Harvesters could complete their plan. The first attempts at communication failed completely. Vorthak military channels used encryption that human technology could not break. Worse, the aliens immediately jammed any signals that seemed to come from human sources. Kethvar understood the problem. His people would never trust messages from humans. They would assume any communication was a trick or attack. Only another Vorthak could convince them to listen. The alien warrior made a difficult choice. He asked Hyejin to patch his personal identification codes into the communication system. This would prove to his people that the message was real. It would also mark him as a traitor forever. Du Hyun watched his alien friend make the decision. Kethvar was choosing to save lives, even though it would cost him everything: his honor, his family, his place in Vorthak society. This was true courage. The communication link finally connected to the Vorthak command ship. Harsh alien voices filled the radio channel. Kethvar spoke in his native language with increasing urgency. The conversation grew heated quickly. Hyejin monitored the signal strength and channel security. She could not understand the words but recognized argument when she heard it. The Vorthak commanders were not believing their former warriors' warnings. Kethvar's voice rose to a roar. He was pleading now, begging his own people to listen. The response was cold silence, then a single phrase that needed no translation. The communication channel went dead. The alien warrior slumped against his pillar. His own fleet had declared him dead to them. Speaking with humans had made him an enemy of his people. There was no going back now. Minho saw the alien's pain and made his own difficult choice. He activated emergency protocols and sent coded messages to human high command. The information was too important to ignore, even if it came from an alien source. The response came back within hours. Human fleet commanders were willing to meet with Vorthak representatives under neutral conditions. They would listen to warnings about Harvester infiltration. They would consider joint action against the common threat. Getting Vorthak agreement was much harder. Kethvar's former commander, Thexmol, finally agreed to a meeting, but only to capture the traitor who had allied with humans. Peace talks were just an excuse to recover their lost warrior. Du Hyun and his team prepared for what might be the most important military conference in galactic history. Two species that had never cooperated would try to work together against annihilation. Kethvar would attend as a translator and intelligence source. He knew it might be his death sentence. The Vorthak Code demanded execution for warriors who broke their oaths. But human friendship had taught him that some things were more important than personal honor. The meeting point was chosen carefully: an abandoned space station in neutral territory. Both fleets would send small delegations. Armed guards would keep the peace while commanders talked. As the human team prepared to depart, Kethvar pulled Do Hyun aside. In broken human words mixed with gestures, the alien warrior tried to explain his gratitude. This small human had shown him a better way to be strong. Du Hyun clasped one of Kethvar's massive hands in both of his own. Words were not needed between. True brothers in arms. They would face whatever came next together. The transport ship lifted off carrying the strangest diplomatic mission in known history. The fate of two civilizations now depended on an abandoned alien warrior and the human soldier who had refused to let him die alone. The abandoned space station hung in the void like a metal tomb. Once it had been a trading post where many species met in peace. Now it served as the meeting place for two civilizations that had never trusted each other. Human and Vorthak ships approached from opposite sides of the station. Both fleets maintained weapon locks on their enemies even during peace talks. Centuries of mistrust could not be overcome in a single day. Captain Min-Ho Yang led the human delegation through empty corridors that echoed with their footsteps. Do-hyun and Jae-min flanked Kethvar as bodyguards and friends. The alien warrior moved slowly but with dignity despite his wounds. The conference room had been chosen for its neutral design. A simple metal table with chairs sized for both species. No flags or symbols from either side, just warriors trying to prevent the destruction of everything they loved. Thexmol entered with 4 Vorthak guards, all armed with plasma weapons. The commander was larger than Kethvar and covered in battle scars that told of many victories. His yellow eyes burned with anger as he saw his former subordinate. The two groups took positions on opposite sides of the table. Tension filled the air like electricity before a storm. Any wrong word or movement could start a battle that would doom both species. Kethvar spoke first in the Vorthak language. His voice was steady despite the pain of facing his former brothers. He explained about the Harvester infiltration, the stolen technology, the trap being prepared for both fleets. Thexmol listened in cold silence, then responded with harsh words that needed no translation. Accusations of cowardice and betrayal, demands for immediate surrender to face execution, complete rejection of any intelligence from a traitor. Min-Ho tried to present the captured data crystals as proof. Human analysis had confirmed Kethvar's warnings about Harvester infiltration. Both species were in mortal danger from the machine. Collective. The Vorthak commander dismissed the evidence without examination. Humans were liars and weaklings. Their technology was inferior. Any data they provided was worthless or fabricated. The Empire needed no help from lesser beings. Do-hyun watched his alien friend endure insult after insult from his own people. Kethvar's massive frame remained motionless, but green blood began seeping through his bandages. The stress was reopening his wounds. The human soldier could not stay silent any longer. He stood and spoke directly to Thexmol in clear, simple words. Kethvar was the bravest warrior he had ever known. Any species would be honored to claim him as their own. Thexmol's response was swift and brutal. A plasma bolt from his sidearm burned through the air where Do-hyun had been standing. Only Jae-min's quick tackle saved the corporal from being vaporized. Kethvar erupted from his chair with a roar that shook the station walls. 4 arms reached for Thexmol's throat as centuries of warrior training took control. The two aliens crashed together in a tangle of muscle and fury. Human and Vorthak guards raised weapons but could not fire without hitting their own people. The two massive warriors rolled across the floor, trading devastating blows. Both were skilled fighters, but only one was already wounded. Thexmol gained the advantage through superior health and positioning. He pinned Kethvar to the floor with one hand around his throat. The other drew a ceremonial blade to complete the execution of a traitor. Do-hyun broke free from Jae-min's protective grip and threw himself onto Thexmol's back. The human soldier was tiny compared to either alien, but his surprise attack disrupted the commander's balance. Jae-min and Boram joined the fight without hesitation. 3 human soldiers against 1 massive alien warrior. They had no chance in direct combat, but they fought anyway to protect their friend. Kethvar used the distraction to break free and regain his feet. He stood between his human brothers and his former commander. Green blood ran down his arms, but his stance was strong. He would not let these small, brave creatures die for him. The confrontation might have ended in bloodshed, but new alarms suddenly filled the station. Emergency lights flashed red as automated systems detected incoming threats. The Harvesters had found the meeting place. Through the observation windows, massive machine ships became visible against the stars. Dozens of them in perfect formation. They had come to eliminate both delegations while the leaders were gathered in one place. Min-Ho tried to contact both fleets, but communications were being jammed. The Harvesters had learned from previous encounters. They would not allow their targets to coordinate or escape. Thexmol stared at the approaching enemy fleet with growing understanding. The trap was real. Both species had been lured to this place for destruction. The human warnings had been accurate all along. The station shuddered as harvester cutting beams began slicing through the hull. Atmosphere vented into space through growing breaches. They had minutes before the station became uninhabitable. Du-Hyun grabbed Kethvar's arm and pointed toward the emergency shuttle bay. They could reach the small craft if they moved immediately. Fighting among themselves would only help the harvesters win. Thexmol made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He ordered his guards to escort the humans to safety. Enemy or not, they were warriors who deserved to die fighting rather than suffocating in a broken station. The mixed group ran through collapsing corridors as the station died around them. Human and Vorthak soldiers worked together to clear debris and seal emergency doors. Survival demanded cooperation. They reached the shuttle bay as the final supports gave way. Two small craft remained functional, barely enough space for all the survivors. Thexmol's guards helped load the wounded humans, while Do-Hyun assisted injured Vorthak warriors. As the shuttles launched from the dying station, Kethvar looked back at his former commander. Thexmol met his gaze and spoke a single word in the old language: forgiveness, recognition that honor could take many forms. The escape had been close, but now they faced a larger problem. Both fleets were under attack by superior harvester forces. The Machine Collective had used the peace talks to position their ships for maximum advantage. Du-Hyun activated the shuttle's communication system and handed the controls to Kethvar. The alien warrior began broadcasting on all frequencies, warning both fleets, sharing tactical data, coordinating joint defensive positions. For the first time in galactic history, human and Vorthak forces fought side by side against a common enemy. The partnership that had begun in a crater with one dying warrior now grew to include entire battle fleets. The fight was far from over, but something had changed forever. Two species had learned they were stronger together than apart. Honor came, not from standing alone, but from protecting those who stood beside you. The combined human and Vorthak fleets fought together against the Harvester Armada in a battle that would be remembered for generations. Ships that had been enemies hours before now covered each other's retreat and shared targeting data. Do-Hyun watched the space battle from the shuttle's small viewport. Massive Vorthak dreadnoughts used their superior firepower to break harvester formations. Fast human destroyers exploited the gaps with precision strikes. Together, they were winning against impossible odds. The shuttles docked with Captain Minho's command ship as the battle reached its climax. Kethvar immediately went to the bridge where his knowledge of harvester tactics proved invaluable. He identified weak points in the enemy formation that human sensors had missed. Thexmol's flagship coordinated the final assault with brutal efficiency. The Vorthak commander had accepted that cooperation was not weakness, but wisdom. His warriors fought with new tactics learned from human allies. The last harvester ship exploded in brilliant light as Vorthak plasma cannons found its reactor core. The machine fleet that had seemed unstoppable lay scattered in glowing debris. Both species had survived, but at terrible cost. Du-Hyun stood in the medical bay watching doctors from both races treat wounded soldiers. Human medics worked on injured Vorthak warriors. Alien healers tended to burned human pilots. Language barriers meant nothing when lives were at stake. The victory celebration was brief. Intelligence reports showed harvester reinforcements moving from their home systems. This battle had been won, but the war was far from over. More cooperation would be needed for final victory. Kethvar faced a difficult choice. His own people had forgiven his alliance with humans, but he could not return to his old life. He had seen a better way to be strong, a path that honored both individual courage and collective wisdom. Major Sun Woo Baek arrived from Earth with new orders and a radical proposal. the human high command wanted to establish a joint training facility. Warriors from both species would learn to fight together as one force. The Vorthak Empire agreed after much debate. Their traditional ways had nearly led to extinction. Perhaps it was time to learn new forms of honor from their small but brave human allies. Du-hyun was promoted to lieutenant and given command of the 1st Integrated Unit. Human and Vorthak soldiers would serve together under his leadership. It was an honor he had never expected but accepted with pride. The training facility was built on a neutral world, chosen for its strategic location. Young warriors from both species came to learn the lessons that Do-hyun and Kethvar had discovered in a simple crater. Jae-min became an instructor specializing in joint tactics. His experience fighting alongside the alien warrior made him uniquely qualified to teach. Cooperation between species. Students learned that different did not mean inferior. Boram was appointed as the facility's chief of operations. Her practical leadership style worked well with warriors from both cultures. She taught that good soldiers looked out for their brothers regardless of what planet they came from. Kethvar served as cultural liaison and advanced combat instructor. His knowledge of both human and Vorthak fighting methods created new techniques that neither species could have developed alone. War became an art of unity rather than individual glory. The first graduating class included equal numbers from both species. They had learned each other's languages and customs. More importantly, they had learned to trust with their lives. The old barriers of fear and misunderstanding were breaking down. 5 years later, the joint forces proved their worth against a new Harvester offensive. Mixed units fought with seamless coordination. Human creativity combined with Vorthak's strength created tactical innovations that confused and defeated the machines. Du-hyun commanded a strike team that included his old friend Jae-min and 6 Vorthak warriors trained in human methods. They moved through enemy positions like a single organism with many limbs. Victory came through perfect teamwork. The war finally ended when combined fleets found and destroyed the Harvester home systems. Machines that had threatened organic life for centuries were reduced to floating scrap. Peace returned to the galaxy through cooperation. In the years that followed, human and Vorthak colonies were established on shared worlds. Trade and cultural exchange flourished between the former. Enemies. Children grew up learning both languages and seeing both species as friends. Du-hyun eventually became the first human general to command Vorthak troops in peacetime. His leadership style emphasized mutual respect and shared sacrifice. Old prejudices faded as new generations grew up together. Kethvar never returned to the Vorthak Empire, but he was no longer considered a traitor. His choice to ally with humans had saved both species. History remembered him as a bridge between worlds, rather than an enemy of his people. The two warriors remained close friends throughout their lives. They established a tradition where graduates of the Joint Academy visited the crater on Nexus Prime, where their partnership began. A simple memorial marked the spot where two soldiers had chosen trust over fear. The inscription was written in both languages, but carried the same message. True strength comes not from standing alone, but from lifting others up. Honor is found not in personal glory, but in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Years later, when both warriors were old and gray, they would sit together and remember that first meeting. Du-hyun would laugh about offering water to a dying alien. Kethvar would marvel at the human who had risked everything for a stranger. Their story became legend throughout the galaxy, not as a tale of heroic battles or impossible victories, but as proof that understanding could triumph over hatred. That mercy could be the greatest strength of all. New species that joined the galactic community learned about the human soldier and the alien warrior who had changed everything. Their example showed that cooperation was possible between any peoples willing to see past their differences. The legacy lived on in every mixed unit that served together, in every alien child who played with human friends. in every act of kindness between strangers from different worlds. One moment of compassion in a crater had grown to transform the galaxy. Du Hyun and Kethvar had proven that heroes were not made by the enemies they defeated, but by the friends they chose to save. Their brotherhood had become the foundation for a future where all species could stand together under the stars.